On July 3rd and 4th, 2026, the Imam Khomeini Grand Musalla in Tehran was transformed from a house of communal worship into a highly choreographed arena of statecraft and public diplomacy. Iran didn't just line up foreign delegations, it scored them. The scoreboard was the Quran itself. The funeral itself, delayed by more than 4 months due to the intensity of the active warfare that followed, was finally made possible by an uneasy June ceasefire and a subsequent interim agreement. Rather than reciting uniform prayers, funeral organisers calibrated specific Quranic passages for each visiting delegation. This scripted deployment of scripture worked as a coded ranking system, providing theological validation to key armed allies, offering transactional reassurance to global powers, and delivering public reprimands to hesitant partners and domestic rivals. By examining these tailored recitations, observers can map out Iran's post-war regional hierarchy, the consolidation of its domestic power under the newly appointed Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, and its long-term strategic posture. The scriptural encounter between the Iranian organisers and the Saudi delegation represents the most geopolitically charged event of the funeral. Led by Deputy Foreign Minister Walid al-Khariji, the Saudi presence in Tehran was a highly calculated diplomatic exercise. When President Ebrahim Raisi died in a helicopter crash in May 2024, Riyadh had dispatched its full foreign minister, Prince Faisal bin Farhan, signalling a functional, upward-trending bilateral relationship following the 2023 Beijing Agreement. However, for Khamenei's funeral, the highest protocol state event in modern Iranian history, Saudi Arabia executed a deliberate diplomatic downgrade by sending a deputy minister. By delivering an oral message to President Masoud Pezeshkian rather than formally acknowledging the newly installed Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, Riyadh managed to satisfy the basic protocols of state condolence while actively withholding political endorsement from a successor whose legitimacy remains highly contested. This downgrade also allowed Riyadh to maintain operational diplomatic channels while signaling strategic distance from Iran's active military confrontation with the United States and Israel. Tehran's response was a sharp, theological counterstrike. As al-Khariji approached the coffin, the reciter delivered verse from Surah Al-Imran. There was already a sign for you in the two groups that met, one fighting in the way of Allah and the other rejecting faith. They saw them as twice their own number, but Allah strengthens with His help whom He wills. Surely in this is a lesson for those who possess insight. This verse directly references the 624 CE Battle of Badr, fought in what is now modern-day Saudi Arabia, where a vastly outnumbered Muslim force routed a superior Quraysh army. By invoking Badr, Tehran built a complex, dual-layered narrative. Generously, the passage gestured toward a foundational, shared Islamic victory. Subversively, however, it functioned as a pointed indictment of Saudi security policy. In today's context, Iran increasingly describes the recent war as its own Badr, a victory over the US and Israel's assault on the country. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia stayed quietly aligned with Washington and, according to some reports, even covertly attacked Iran during the hostilities. Read against that backdrop, the verse works as both a nod to a common sacred past and a sharp warning. It reminded the Saudi delegation that when Iran believes it stood and fought, Riyadh, in Tehran's view, stood back or stood with its enemies. For the armed, non-state proxies and ideological allies that comprise Iran's axis of resistance, the liturgical selections were designed to elevate their combat losses into the realm of the sacred, framing recent tactical setbacks as necessary steps in a divine cycle of victory. For these closest ideological allies, including Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Yemen's Houthis, and Iraq's Hashd al-Shaabi, the verses were entirely focused on martyrdom, unbroken pledges, and ultimate triumph. Hamas was greeted with verse from Surah Al-Ahzab, praising those who have proven true to what they pledged to God, noting that some have already fulfilled their pledge while others still wait, but none have changed their commitment in the least. This selection functioned as a direct sanctification of Hamas's fighters and dead. Hezbollah's verse promised the upper hand to true believers and cast their severe battlefield setbacks as part of a divine cycle where God chooses martyrs and reveals who stays faithful. For Yemen's Houthis, Tehran picked verse from Surah Al-Fath, praising those with the Prophet as firm with the disbelievers and compassionate with one another, a formulation that perfectly matches Iran's image of them as ruthless to enemies and tightly bound inside. Iraq's Hashd al-Shaabi and the broader Iraqi delegation heard the classic Quranic line insisting that those martyred in God's cause are not dead but alive, validating their sacrifices as eternal. The most profound strategic coding, however, lay in the shared recitation provided to both Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, and the Taliban. Both delegations were greeted with the opening of Surah Al-Fath, which speaks of a clear triumph granted by God so that past and future shortcomings are forgiven and His favour is completed. Using the exact same passage for a Palestinian armed group and for the rulers of Afghanistan puts them in the same symbolic bracket. Movements that, in Tehran's eyes, have already driven out the Americans or are fighting to do so. The explicit reference to forgiving past and future shortcomings is highly important. It allows Iran to embrace the Taliban's victory over the US while glossing over the movement's own controversial sectarian and political record, presenting both the Taliban and now Iran as beneficiaries of a divine amnesty tied directly to military success. Russia's delegation, represented by Dmitry Medvedev, was greeted with verse from Surah Al-Qasas, which talks about the eternal home of the hereafter reserved for those who seek neither tyranny nor corruption on the earth, ending with the assertion that the final outcome belongs to the righteous. This served as a highly flattering way to thank Moscow for its support during the war without explicitly folding it into the armed resistance. China's line was gentler still, proclaiming that God ordained this only as good news for you and reassurance for your hearts, with a reminder that victory comes only from God. This choice perfectly fit Beijing's cautious, non-ideological and transactionally focused support for Tehran during the crisis. For India, the scriptural signalling reflected a complex, dual-layered diplomatic tightrope that captured both strategic partnership and subtle reprimand. For the Indian delegation, which was led by Minister of State for External Affairs. The recitation was from Surah Al-Imran. Those to whom people said, "Indeed, the people have gathered against you, so fear them." But it only increased them in faith, and they said, "Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs." This verse carries a highly nuanced double meaning. On one hand, it served as a quiet acknowledgement of New Delhi's balanced diplomatic stance. On the other hand, observers noted an undercurrent of quiet disappointment. By sending a mid-level delegation rather than a top constitutional official, New Delhi signalled deep strategic caution. Thus, the verse also worked as a reminder that Iran's ultimate survival depends on divine sufficiency rather than reliance on hesitant international partners who remain largely bystander observers. Egypt's presence at the funeral was marked by two distinct recitations, both of which emphasized reward over conflict. The first recitation promised gardens of eternity to the pious, pure reward devoid of war imagery. In one of Egypt's two recitations, the verse simply praised those who believe and do good as the best of all beings, destined for gardens where God is pleased with them. This represented a completely non-confrontational, reward-focused tone designed to welcome Cairo into a cooperative regional framework. The intermediate tier of regional partners, including Qatar, Turkey, Pakistan, and the first of Egypt's recitations, sat in an in-between category. These states were praised and welcomed, but not branded as part of the armed Axis. Qatar, which helped mediate during the war and hosted critical diplomatic talks, heard the same clear triumph verse of Surah Al-Fath used for PIJ and the Taliban. However, in Qatar's diplomatic context, this recitation functioned as a thank you for its mediation efforts, turning a traditional call to arms into an expression of gratitude. Turkey received the verse from Surah An-Nisa, elevating those who strive with their wealth and their lives above those who stay behind. This was a direct nod to sacrifice, directed at a country that refused to enter the war, but loudly warned that Israel is war-addicted and seeks regional domination. Pakistan was addressed through a personal-sounding verse from Surah Al-Isra, "Grant me an honourable entrance and an honourable exit." This echoed Islamabad's early role alongside Doha in trying to bridge Iran and the US using its access to Washington during back-channel negotiations. The most severe scriptural rebukes were reserved for the official Lebanese state delegation and domestic reformist elements, illustrating how funeral organisers craftfully used the liturgy to settle political scores. In sharp contrast to the praise lavished on Hezbollah, the official Lebanese government delegation was met with verse from Surah An-Nisa, detailing people refusing to sacrifice themselves or leave their homes when commanded. History may remember this as the funeral of a supreme leader. But historians may also remember it as the moment Iran quietly unveiled its new geopolitical playbook. Not through military parades or diplomatic declarations, but through carefully selected verses that revealed who matters, who doesn't, and what comes next.
1, 0, liftoff. Liftoff.
Every day, history unfolds.
Chance to change the lives of millions of people for the better. That's what I came into politics.
A decision is made. A question is asked. A protest begins. A missile is launched. A treaty is signed.
Change the political structures in this country for a long time to come. It is deeply humbling.
A vote is counted. The world changes.
We will have to raise our voices.
We oppose violence.
Hate, it is not a solution.
We demand accountability from the government.
Are we ready?
But before the headlines, before the debates, Before the opinions, there is the moment itself. The words that were spoken.
By 2008, we knew that Epstein was a convicted sexual abuser. How was that not a deal breaker for the president?
If you, Congresswoman, asked Bill Clinton that.
The people who lived it. The images that tell the story. Because the closer you are to the event, the closer you are to the truth. At APT, we believe news should begin where history happens, not where the arguments begin.
Or do you want to go there?
That's why we bring you the moments that matter. Accurate, powerful, timely. So you can see more, understand more, and decide for yourself. Accurate, powerful, timely.